I put my papers in some pastor's horn to be perused, and censured, secondly. When they're returned, I look on them and find them weel bedecked with sonnets, as ye see. Tak no their praises, reader, mean o' me, but o' the mater, whilk my muse entreats. Oh, that their love would wish my book to be as good indeed as in their kind conceits. For, like as honest men o' their estates, allows no foolish glittering words in vain. Say certainly my heart extremely hates sick praising, as may justly move disdain. Think we'll o' all. This only they profess, to praise the truth, that they may it embrace. That sonnet is by James Melville, minister of Kilrenny, the author of this book of 1598, the spiritual propine, the spiritual gift offered to his parishioners of Kilrenny in the East Neuk. Melville's sonnet thanks the 7 ministers from Fife who had written 7 luminary poems to introduce his book and commend it to the readers. And you see Melville's the author to the reader and then to commendatory sonnets at the end there. The ministers sign with their initials, which I interpret thus. Robert Dury, James Melville's brother-in-law, the minister of Ainster, next door to Kilrenny. John Dykes, James Melville's brother-in-law, assistant to him at Kilrenny since '96. A.M. is, of course, James Melville's uncle, Andrew Melville, who was the principal of the rector of the university here at the time, and then principal of St Mary's College, as I'm sure you all know. John Johnson, for me, for the North East, a great Aberdonian. He was Professor of Divinity at St Mary's College since '94. William Scott, very interesting figure, Minister of Kennoway since '93, but then he moves to Cooper, and he writes the apologetical narration of the Kirk of Scotland around the events of the first half of the 17th century. Then John Carmichael, Minister of Newburn since '95, and John Caldcrook, who had been Minister of Aberdeen since '94, but had been John Johnson's predecessor as Professor of Divinity in St Mary's College, and originally had been a great enemy of the Melvilles and completely changed his position. All these men then are Melvillians in the sense that they were colleagues and close friends of Andrew Melville and of his nephew James. As for the poetic spirituality of my title, well, this little collection of luminary verse prefacing the spiritual propine hints at a lost wealth of spiritual poetry being created in the East Neuk. One of the places it would have been created is here, James Melville's manse, still standing in Ainster, a wonderful building built for him by his parishioners. All the sonnets that these men contributed to the propine are far too good to be one-offs by men who did not regularly practice sonneteering. But in most cases, that one solitary sonnet in the propine is all that we have today of the author's poetry. James Melville, who lived here in this manse, has left us a huge body of Scots language spiritual poetry. From John Dykes, we have a total of, there's the names again so you can see them. From John Dykes, we have a total of 12 extant sonnets. Andrew Melville, of course, left a huge corpus of Latin verse, and so did John Johnson, not quite as huge, from whom we also have one other fine vernacular sonnet, printed in a quite different book of devotional verse. And from William Scott of Kennoway, whom you see on the list there, we have not one, but 2 sonnets in the propine. For the second is printed at the end of the first. Prose half of the propine. And there you see it. Sorry, my mouth is drying out horribly. For the propine is a catechism, a double catechism, The first half is in prose, but the second is entirely in verse. Most of it a single dream vision, wonderful way to teach a catechism, in which symbolic characters like devotion instruct the dreamer in the Lord's Prayer, the Apostles' Creed, precepts of repentance, and the Ten Commandments. A versification which Melville tells us he has designed for his parishioners to sing, using whatever suitable psalm tunes they fancy, the ones you are best familiar with, he says. So, that's Kilrenny, that's James Melville's church, that's the medieval tower that he would have known. So, with the spiritual profane, we have evidence of a poetic spirituality being practiced by the clergy and actively promoted amongst the laity. I think we can go further than this. We can postulate the existence of a spiritual community in Fife. A community in the sense that those who belonged to it knew one another, spent time together, shared their joys and their burdens, and gave one another mutual support. I'm not talking about a semi-monastic community like Little Giddy. I'm talking about a community of people who meet on a regular basis. It's even quasi-formalised, this community, thanks to the fact that the godly met regularly at the Presbytery of St Andrew's monthly exercise, held in different churches around the presbytery, where two ministers preached before their colleagues and the laity for edification and for mutual critiquing. It's the equivalent of the Tudor Puritan ministerial prophesyings, so loathed by Elizabeth Tudor. And of course they could also meet at communion seasons, held in different around the presbytery and around the synod of Fife. Support was what all the Presbyterian godly needed after the failure of what Julian Goodare has called the attempted Presbyterian coup d'etat of 17 December 1596. King James now had the upper hand in the ongoing struggle between the Kirk and the Crown as to who was head of the Kirk, King Jesus or King James. The first major setback came in August 1600, when the great Edinburgh minister Robert Bruce, pupil and disciple of Andrew and James Melville here at St Andrews, was banished to the Siberia of Scotland, which we know today as Inverness. The next setback came with the abortive Aberdeen General Assembly of July 2, 1605, when King James, now 6th and 1st, imprisoned 6 ministers who refused to denounce the assembly as illegal. And there are the names of the ministers. Notice Robert Dury is highlighted because he was one of the contributors of a sonnet to the spiritual profane. The final hammer blow, as far as this paper's scope is concerned, came with the summoning of a further 8 leading Presbyterian spokesmen to London, where they were promptly put under house arrest and subjected to harangues from assorted English bishops about the glories of Anglican worship. The people highlighted in this list had all contributed poems to the spiritual profane. In November 1606, this group, the Blackness Castle ministers, were banished into exile. From this group, the ministers were severely reprimanded, most were let back to Scotland, but Andrew Melville ended banged up, shut up and banged up in the Tower until 1611, and James Melville died without ever returning to Scotland. He died in exile in Berwick. But now, look at just how many of these two groups that you've just seen, these two groups of the truly persecuted, belong to the Synod of Fife. The king had effectively rendered the Presbyterians leaderless, spokesmanless, and the Presbyterians would not regain the upper hand until 1637 and the Prayer Book riots, which led to the signing of the National Covenant. These were dark times, the beginning of, in the first decade of the 17th century. Dark times for the Presbyterian faithful throughout Scotland. As you saw, John Welch was the minister of Ayr which is not even on the fringe of the East Neuk. A fine sonnet, however, was written to encourage John Welsh to hold firm to the promise of divine light in the darkness of blackness at Castle. My dear brother, with courage bear the cross. Joy shall be joint with all thy sorrows here. Heath is thy hope, disdain this earthly dross. Aince shall ye see the wished day appear. Now it is dark, the sky can no be clear. After the clouds it shall be calm anon. Wait on his will, whose blood has bought ye dear. Extol his name, though outward joys be gone. Look to the Lord, thou art no left alone. Sin he is there, what pleasure canst thou take? He is at hand, and hears thy heavy groan. End out thy faith, and suffer for his sake. A sicht meest bricht thy soul shall shortly see, when store o' glory thy rich reward shall be. Now, this sonnet, believe it or not, is built on an acrostic. Mr. John Welsh. And note the chime in the final couplet. A sicht meest bricht, store o' glory. Chiming internal rhymes in the final couplet of sonnets are found in some of James Melville's own sonnets and in several of the luminary sonnets to the spiritual propine and the other sonnets by those ministers. And these chiming internal rhymes are also found in numerous sonnets by the author of the John Welsh sonnet, Elizabeth Melville, Lady Couros, also known as I am aware of that, where her brother, Lady Couros' brother-in-law, Robert Colville, was minister and a stout Presbyterian. And yes, here's the book of Elizabeth Melville's poems, edited by me, and copies are on sale. The two sonnets that Elizabeth Melville addressed to Andrew Melville, no relation, in the Tower of London, also feature that chime in the final sonnet, in the final couplet. And one of those sonnets to Andrew Melville is built on an acrostic, but it's entitled Anagram. Meek men are vexed, just souls are ta'en away, and well were mine to flit among the rest. New Lord, mak haste and call me for his clay. Dear Jesus, come, who lang shall trouble less? Receive my spirit, with pain it is oppressed. Ill is the age, the faith be new does fail. Up, Lord, who lang thy saints are sair distress? Maintain thy truth, let no the prude prevail. End out my faith. Who can this heart be hail? Lord, shall I live to see thy spouse, the judge, in pain? Why sleeps thou say? Thou sees thy secret seal, in thee we trust, although we should be slain. New souls they shine, while look unto thy licht, and well were mine to see that blessed sight. I'm sure you get the point of the anagram. It's pretty brilliantly deployed, as is the chime. What wonderful words! New souls we shine, to address to the prisoner in his cell here. These sonnets, from the period 1605 to 1611, the John Welsh one and the two Andrew Melville ones, link Elizabeth Melville, Lady Couros, with the very heart of Presbyterian opposition to the Crown's policies. But more than that, I think we can prove that, from Couros or not, she was an active, participating member of the East Neuk spiritual community that I mentioned. In 1603, Melville had become Scotland's first published woman poet, with 3 editions of her Godly Dream appearing by 1606. As you see, it says at the top, compiled in Scottish metre by MM, that's NM, gentlewoman in Curas, at the request of her friends, which is already indicating she belongs to a community of people. The later editions do name her as Elizabeth Melville. She puts her name in the second, third, and all the rest of the extant 13 editions that we have. This was her only published work, many times published. But we also have a lot of manuscript poetry by her. And the bulk of it is contained in this volume in New College Library. It's 3,300 lines of poetry by Elizabeth Melville, copied in an organised collection at the end of 29 sermons on the 11th to the Hebrews, preached by Robert Bruce of Edinburgh. The poems are copied in very well filled double columns, except here at the start, where you see there's a blank space underneath. These two short lyrics, there they are, you can get them to see them focused in on. These two short lyrics are clearly preludial to the main collection in double columns. As you see, the opening sonnet's title tells us it's an anagram. Silly is silly in the old meaning of innocent, defenceless, helpless, and cor is the Latin word for heart, of course. In line 3 of the sonnet, sob silly cor is echoed, och, wounded heart. The sonnet addresses someone clearly suffering greatly, trapped in a state of dark, agonizing crisis. Sob silly cor, said like a pilgrim poor, who lives below and cannot see thy love. Och, wounded heart, what's all thy sickness cure? Sin has thee slain, thou braves to be above. Och, sorrow and soul that mourns and would remove, break through these bonds, assay thyself and flee, that after pain these pleasures thou may prove that in his word that Prince has promised thee. Christ is thy King, nane has thy heart but he is no here. Then learn for to lament, pierce through these clouds and seek until thou see that sight, say sweet, that shall thy soul content. Here is thy hell, and sin assails thee sore. Sob, silly core, and groan to see that glow. No chime in that final couplet, but notice that sore rhymes with core at the end of the fourth syllable. Wonderful poetry of spiritual encouragement, but whose is this heart in distress that needs such encouragement? Who is sob silly core? What does the second preludial poem tell the reader? Because this is obviously addressed to the reader of the collection. What does the second preludial poem tell us? In hope to see the sicht that thou desires, some courage tuck, though plug it here with clay. Above the clouds thy sore and soul aspires, but be content a little time to stay. End out thy fecht, then shall thou see that day long looked for, then shall thy sorrow cease. Licht, life, and love shall drive thy dumps away. Christ shall thee crown with gladness, glory, and grace. Oh, then be still, and cleave to Christ thy shield. Rejoice thy fill, for faith shall win the field. There you are. Never believed it. Such a perfect poem is also based on an acrostic. Isabel Corr. Corr is a rather rare Scottish surname, but Isabel Corr is a very real person. Dame Isabel Corr, Lady Airdrie, mother of at least 7 children. Not Airdrie in the west, but the large estate beside Crail in the east Neuk of Fife. Where the minister was a name you saw in those lists, Andrew Duncan, a great disciple of Andrew and James. Fervent preacher, a remarkable man, a grammarian, and a spiritual writer who published quite a lot and was very persecuted. We know that Isabel Corr was a Presbyterian, she'd been a parishioner of Robert Bruce in Edinburgh, as had her pious father, Clement Core. This is where they lived. Does anyone recognise it? It's Advocates Close. And here is the door to Clement Core's house. You see at the end of the lintel, at the left-hand end, CC, Clement Core. And then his wife's initials at the other end, Helen Bellenden. 3 of Isabel's sons, the proof of how devout a Presbyterian she was, is what happens with her family in the course of history. 3 of her sons, who'd become successful soldiers in the Swedish service in the 30 Years' War, hightailed it back to Scotland. The Swedes were not happy to let them go. Hightailed it back to Scotland to fight for the colony. Isabel's husband, Robert Lumsden, became one of the Fife adventurers, if that rings any bells with you. The Fife adventurers were trying to set up the plantation of Ulster. The plantation of Lewis, a dry run and a very unsuccessful one for the plantation of Ulster. In July 1605, it's a month you've already heard referred to, in July 1605, Lumsden committed all his and his wife's and probably his father-in-law's money to this disaster and lost absolutely everything. In July 1605, of course, Andrew Duncan became one of the ministers imprisoned here in blackness, awaiting possible execution on a charge of high treason, like Robert Dury, Minister of Einster, and John Carmichael, Minister of Newburn. In 1606, James Melville, Andrew Melville, and the other 6 that you saw, most of them from the Synod of Fife, including William Scott, now of Cooper, were summoned to London, as you heard. Imagine Isabel Core's state of mind and soul in those years, after July 1605. All those barons, all that money flung away by her husband, and the kirk, as far as she was concerned, in ruins. That wonderful spiritual community had lost its pastors. Had God abandoned not only her and her family, but even his Presbyterian faithful? You can see that the preludial poems were added to the collection after the first right-hand column had been copied. You can just about see it. The man makes a mistake in the first line. He doesn't write it in the top to spoil it, but it makes the first line too long, so it runs into the opposite column. It doesn't happen anywhere else in this in these 29 pages of poetry. The collection itself, the whole collection of 19 poems, some of them very long, charts a difficult spiritual journey, as does the printed Godly Dream. A journey from despair and darkness through hope, alternating with darkness, to a vision of salvation beyond the bounds of time. The final couplets of the 2 sonnets that end this whole spiritual odyssey are: Then grace and pace, than love wi' life and licht, ye weel shall feel, when Christ shall clear your sight. It's a very spiritual discernment, as you can see. And the last ones of the whole collection: Be no cast down, think on that endless life. That glorious crown is worth a greater strife. The collection was assembled, consciously assembled, by Elizabeth Melville to provide spiritual help for Isabel Core at the specific request of her suffering friend. And Melville clearly told the scribe to leave a space for the insertion of those 2 stunning preludial lyrics that she had written, one woman writing those masterpieces for another individual woman. I found that incredibly moving and incredibly revelatory about the nature of the spiritual community that existed here in the East Group of Fife. Now, I hope that the compressed nature of this paper, despite its compressed nature, it's been possible to see that the rethought Melvillians of my title are not an organised, consistent caucus of highly politicised ministers marching in formation led by the great Andrew Melville, the successor to John Knox, who's been so thoroughly debunked in the last 10 years, but a community of the Melvillians are the Presbyterian clergy and faithful within the Synod of Fife, men and women, in regular frequent contact with the luminous personality of James Melville. In 1605, James wrote and published a whole little selection of metrical psalm paraphrases in subtle support of the imprisoned ministers in Blackness Castle. The poetic spirituality of my title survived for some time after 1610. James Melville carried on writing poetry in exile, very fine poetry. Isabel Corr's minister in Crail, Andrew Duncan, had an assistant minister, William Murray, who succeeded Duncan eventually, and William Murray published 2 books of spiritual guidance featuring poetry in the mid-1630s. It's dreadful poetry, but it's like metrical psalms, and it's for people to sing, so they get to know these particular passages in the Old Testament. But whether Elizabeth Melville continued to write poetry, we don't know. But one of the longer poems from the collection she put together for Isabel Corr survives quite independently in an East Neuk commonplace book from the second half of the 17th century. So it was circulating and being used. Many of Melville's poems use stanza forms found in the metrical psalter. So, like James Melville's poems, they could be sung. Indeed, we know the specific psalm tune for one of them, Psalm 42. And this is how it begins. As hills full painters brave and pent, for running rivers clear, O breast we way, I shall say, for thee my God may steer. My heart doth breast, my soul doth rest, for thee the wallow lie. Once shall I see thy majesty, and leave this fellow strife.